Right, good evening, everybody. My name's John J. Brooke. Good evening, good afternoon, how the devil are ya? Please hit subscribe or like, because that's what it's all about. Yeah, I'm John J. Brooke. I'm a recovered alcoholic addict. We're going to do some questions and answers tonight. Hopefully they're thought-provoking, and maybe, just maybe, there's a question there that you've always had in your mind, and you might be there to help. So I'll just give myself a moment to been a bit of a mad rush. I was supposed to be 9 o'clock and we're 4 minutes late. Ka-ching! Never be late. So, no further ado, what's the first question?
So, John J., when did you realise you had a problem with drink and drugs?
Very good question. When did I have a problem? There lies the truth. Because I never believed that there was a problem until there was a huge problem, because all problems start off very small and we don't address the small one because we're in a thing called denial. Yeah, don't even notice when I lie. And to get a bit of drift on that, what is a problem? A problem that you see, I might not see. A problem that I might see, you might not see. It's about breaking down what's actually happening in that problem. Was I lying? Yes. Was I cheating? Yes. Was I in denial? Without a shadow of a doubt. The problem that I had was that I believed my own bull. Because when I lie, I don't actually lie to you, I lie to me. And I believe it.
Okay. So could you just sort of like go through the symptoms that you had when you were addicted to drugs and alcohol?
Symptoms. It's a real difficult one, that, but I will try and break it down the best way I know. The symptoms is that at first it was fun. Secondly, it was fun with consequences. And thirdly, it was just pure consequences. So that leads into sort of like what we just said about problem. That's when I noticed there was a problem, because the symptom of that problem and the symptom of what you asked is categorically my usage went up. Whatever I was using, it didn't matter. But, I would say to myself, I would just have one, and then find myself after the 10th once, head on the bar going, what happened? And then and the other thing that really sort of acquainted with that was when everyone else wanted to go home, I wanted to go onto a nightclub. So I'd leave them and go off to a nightclub on my own, and then meet people that would drink like me and do things that I would do. If that answers that question.
Yes, it most certainly does. Did you ever try and stop on your own?
Did I ever try and stop? There were intervals. I don't have a problem stopping. I have a problem stopping. I can go 3 months without a drink or a mood altering chemical, and then I'll reward myself believing and understanding that I'd only use half as much when I would use probably more than I did before. But then I would reward myself by saying, well, I hadn't used in that period of time, so I've got to make up for lost ground. So my reward is, I've been a good boy, I've stopped, I've proved that I'm okay, now I'll start again, but use more.
Okay.
So to say I stopped, there were lots of intervals where I stopped.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I say I don't have a problem with stopping. I have a problem stopping, which means for those that are out there watching, the symptom of my problem is one of denial and one of the systematic events that would lead me up to drinking or using.
Okay. Yeah. So in that time where you did sort of do as you try and you stop, did you ever think about getting help?
Yeah, there were intervals. I mean, the first time I was frog marched to a alcohol worker when I was 13, I believe, by my mum, because she believed I had a problem then. But we're very, very, an alcoholic of my kind are very, very persuasive, very good. We can talk ourselves out, and we can talk ourselves into problems. And I didn't, being a 13-year-old lad asking for help, I didn't want help then because I didn't know I had. There were intervals that I changed my environment, I changed my brand, I changed the people I drank and did things with. So that was a period of not using and not drinking and sort of self-helping. But then I did go to a drug counsellor system within the NHS many years ago, and I laugh because they were always on about controlled use, and I'd already gone past that. I don't believe it. You can have controlled use, because if you're like me, full flight from reality, there is no middle of the road solution for me. In the sense that I'm asking for help, and then someone's saying to me, "Try some controlled drinking." Well, if I could control some controlled drinking, I wouldn't be asking for help, would I?
No, so yeah, very true. Yeah, I get that.
I needed to stop the controlled drinking because it didn't work.
Makes sense. And did you realise, like, that the people that were around you who loved you, did you notice their concern that they had about your welfare?
Throughout my life, my family, my tight family, have always been there to show concern. I classed as nagging, because that strong denial aspect, if I'm being brutally honest, which I have to be, for you out there, not so much here, because the denial is so strong, and my belief system was I only use or drink at weekends. Now, I would go out with my family and have a few drinks and disappear, and you wouldn't see me till the Sunday, where I'd been a bit of a state. But then over a period of time, the socializing with family stopped. My weekend started Thursday and I stopped on Wednesday. So my weekends went to 7 days quite quickly, but I was still in the mindset it was only weekends.
Yeah.
So to reaffirm that question, if you ask me it again.
Well, did you realise that your family were concerned about your welfare?
I didn't realise. I classed it as nagging. I saw them as being busybodies and getting involved with my life. Like a child being told that fire's going to burn you, that fire's going to burn you. There comes a point in that relationship where people go, go and burn yourself, and maybe that'll be enough. So that's why I can really relate to that. I had lots of arguments within the family, and yes, I understood and formidably and know that they loved and cared for me, but it was the way they went around to help me. In some respects, they enabled me.
Okay, so as myself, a non-addict, and trying to get into the mindset of an addict, so you're planning a night out, okay, you've got your alcohol, you've got your drugs, you start your night. Have you ever sort of so you've planned to have this much to drink, you've planned to have this amount of drugs. Have you ever sort of gone over that and used a lot more?
Yeah, of course. There's no limits. I could plan to have 5 drinks, but there'd be 5 big drinks or 5 big bottles. And I'd only still be having 5, wouldn't I? To yourself and others would go, well, that's a little bit over the top. For me, that's perfectly normal. To answer that question as well, in another branch of that, one of the biggest things for my way of thinking as an alcoholic is, it gives that bottle of water a minute. It's a good way of just demonstrating, because I need to get parched already. So that was a bottle of Blanc. Now, you being not me, I've had enough. If I drink any more of that alcohol, I'm going to be sick. I don't want any more, and you'll tip it down the sink. Now, me, I'm more concerned about how can you do that? Because I don't leave anything. I'll drink it dry. Because I have no understanding of leaving. And that blows my mind in pubs, even today, with 20 years of sobriety, nearly 21. I'll look at people and they leave, drink, and it just blows me. How on earth do you do that? because it's waste to me. People pouring champagne and wine and alcohol down the sink. That's well, just a waste.
So, did your drug taking and your drinking ever sort of interfere with your job?
Yeah, I had lots of jobs, and I think the biggest thing I can answer that with an honest, open-ended answer is when my socialising, drinking at lunchtime, drinking early evenings, started to interfere with my work. Rather than stop the intervals of drinking, I would change job. Because that just makes sense, doesn't it? Well, it's problematic in that job, so I'll leave it and start a new job. And then lo and behold, it become problematic. So I had lots of different jobs, but the one major thing throughout my life was drinking. So I didn't stop drinking, I just stopped working. And yeah, you have a job to drink. No, I had a drink to job. That was a job. That makes sense.
You you worked for the money to get your drugs and drink.
Indeed, you know, and then when I couldn't work, I drank. That was a full-time job. So I worked in an environment in hospitality, which enabled me to drink.
So our next question is sort of one that you've sort of answered already, really, through other questions. Is that when you took drugs, did you continually use them till you ran out, or was it sort of like you had some cannabis? Would you use all of it in one night until it had all gone, or would it last you?
Right, I think the question you're asking, would I set myself an ethos of amount that I would use? Very much like the drink. Cannabis, I'll go off a little tangent here, so bring me back. Cannabis in the day that I used to smoke it was a brown chocolate substance. They called it soap. What they call today herbal cannabis on the street, skunk. Not weed, skunk. Because let's talk openly and honestly about that. You'd only get it probably every 6 to 9 months on a cycle, a growing cycle. And you know the branch and the tangent I'm going off here is that the soap that I used to smoke is equivalent to maybe a Hofmeister's, maybe a Carlin Lager, 3.3%. The skunk that I smoked then was equivalent to a 20-year-old malt whiskey. The volumes in alcohol in a Carlin or you know, I don't want a brand name, but you know, or Hofmeister's or a weak lager. A 3.3, 4, maybe even 4%, maybe even a Stella. That's what I was drinking, you know, smoking in terms of usage.
Okay.
But the weed, what they call weed today, the skunk, was equivalent to a 20-year-old malt whiskey of 40-50% proof. Today, it's very hard to get hold of the solids because it's the market's swamped with skunk because everyone's growing it and it's profoundly known out there. And you know, the strength of what you youngsters are smoking is probably 70 to 80% proof. Hence why we're going to have an influx of mental health issues because it makes people psychotic. And I can talk from experience. I had a psychotic episode smoking skunk. I smoked it thinking it was like the old stuff, and it was like brain mush. You know, my head went into a sponge and I flipped out. I heard voices that, you know, it wasn't enjoyable. It was not enjoyable. I, you know, didn't get the munchies, didn't get the giggles. I just got extreme paranoia. Thought the world was against me. Trees were talking to me. You know, even the grass was talking to me. You know, it was voices all over the place, and it was just I'd got inside my mind, and it drove me crazy, and that did wear me off. I didn't stop smoking it. I just smoked less of it because of that incident, and I hasn't had anyone out there that has that experience. It's a scary one, but it wouldn't stop anyone from doing it. They just smoke less. So you're just prolonging that coming up later, which is another experience I had.
Sounds like another topic.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
So moving back to our questions, after you'd sort of had a session on your drink and your drugs, did you ever fall into like a depressed, sort of guilty, remorseful state after?
Most mornings were guilt, remorse, shame.
Mm.
Because I had the party in small hours, sort of leveled out, had maybe an hour's sleep, maybe half an hour's sleep, and woken up with that dread of not knowing who I'd done it with, where I'd been, what I'd done, where I was. Many a time that I'd come to in a different place. Many occasions I woke up in police stations, not know how I got there. And waking up in a police cell, for those that have never been and those are yet to go, they're very strange environments. They're very similar wherever you go. You can't really tell if it's night or day outside. Obviously, if the sun's shining, you can tell it's day. But if you're early morning or late night, at dusk or dawn, you can't differentiate if it's morning or night. So you've woken up and you don't know what day it is. You look out the window and you're in a cell and you go, where am I? What cell am I in? What police station am I in? Am I in my own county? What time of the day is it? And you're looking at the window and I'm going, oh, that looks like morning. And then I kid myself that I believe it's morning. And then I ask the prison guys that hold us, and they tell me it's evening. And I'm like, no, you're lying to me. And have a rear up. So to say I had remorse, there were more, as my addiction grew, there was more and more of them. But I would then use more and more alcohol. Alcoholics are people that sit on park benches drinking out paper bags. Alcoholics are people that drink alcohol every time in the morning, during the day, during the night, non-stop. No, it was a gradual catch the monkey. So the more I felt guilty, shameful, remorse, the more I drank. I went hand in hand, because then that kept that shame, guilt, and remorse down. I don't care anymore once I'm half gone. Does that make sense?
Just self-medicating.
Yeah, that's all drug taking and alcohol is, self-medicating, filling the void.
Mm. Okay, so looking back to that very first day, if you can remember, taking your first drug, do you regret that?
Good question. If I speak wholeheartedly and honestly, of course I do.
Mm.
But then on the other side of that, I wouldn't be the person I am today if I hadn't. So for that, I'm truly grateful. It wasn't part of my career's expenditure at school. I don't know if that's for you out there, but it wasn't. What do you want to be when you grow up? A raving drug and alcoholic. It wasn't part of my remit.
Mm.
Lots of dreams and aspirations that I would like to have done, but I think I often say I've been at the University of Life, and no textbook could give me what the experiences that I've had, and for that I'm truly grateful. And that's a double-edged sword, because I can be of service to others and serve others and help others. Because you can't bullshit a bullshitter.
Yeah. It's one of your favourite sayings. So when you were in probably your worst, let's go to your worst state that you were in during your drug and alcohol abuse time, did that sort of take over your whole mind, even when you were with like your loved ones, your friends, your family? The whole time on your mind, was it the drugs that you were thinking about? And you were like, well, when I can leave them, I can go and do this, and I can go and buy some more.
Well, being honest, when you get to that debacle stage, those that you love are at arm's length. You push them far away, because the nagging and the facial expressions they look at you. Because when I was at it, I thought I looked, ream, I looked sweet, looked sick, whatever the words are today. I thought I looked like dog's dangly bits. But the reality of that, what my perception of myself was deluded, and what people actually saw was emaciated, not eaten, hadn't slept, looked like death warmed up. And, you know, to say that, you know, I don't think I saw my mum for maybe 6 to 9 months. And in that time frame, it just went.
Mm.
It seemed like a day, you know. And I think if I'm really honest, being the big gangster that I thought I was, the only time I went round to see my mum was either to, you know, get some wedge out of her or get some food, you know, because my pride wouldn't allow me to go to anywhere else to get it. So I went back to mum, you know, mum help me, knowing that she would. But there was a time that she stopped, and that hurt. It didn't stop me using, just diversified. So I hope that answers that question in a nutshell.
Okay, so when did it dawn on you that you had this massive problem and you needed help to stop?
Yeah. There's one thing about, from my perspective as an addict, I always, this mind always reminds me of the first drink, the first drug, which, you know, which I have to put my hands up. It was fucking enjoyable and was amazing. However, all I did throughout my years of habitual drinking and using was chasing that buzz to never get it. Never anywhere close. Sometimes I got somewhere close, but never to that place. And to some extent, yeah, my rock bottom, and there are many different forms of rock bottom: a spiritual one, a physical one, a moral one, and a spiritual one, and obviously the lifelong one, i.e., when you're not here to tell the tale. When I got to my worst, I came out of denial with a bang, because that was coming to in a court, not really trying to live up to an ego that I couldn't live up to, saying to everyone I was tickety boo while I was taking a swig of whiskey or brandy without a flask because that's cool, but inside trembling with just fear, because, you know, my outside, what I was giving to everyone else was, yeah, I'm all right, Jack, no problem, I'm going to prison. And then my inside going, I don't want to go. And what happened when I went to prison was I may have been knocked out of society and pay my dues to society for whatever reason. I became unlocked from in here. Something magical happened in prison. You know, I was taken from society, and you know, I'm truly grateful for that today, because I wouldn't be sat before you today. I certainly wouldn't be talking to you guys about it. And I think, you know, we've all got stories, and we've all had pain. And I think the horrible fibre is that we need to join these painful situations up with each other, and then we've got a common goal, and we can help others. Because, boy, God, I look out there, and, you know, I'm still very young in here, and I do worry, and I am concerned, and I change worry to prayer, and, you know, I try and turn that negative thought blueprint that I have in my head into a positive. Like I did a Facebook this morning, and I said, smile at the world, and they smile back. Because a smile is what we do, isn't it? You know, it doesn't cost anything, and that smile can continue on throughout that day as it goes off to other people. Now, I've had people smile at me in the street, and the first thing I thought, what are you smiling at, you weirdo? But then I can't stop smiling afterwards, because I've caught it. So, you know, to answer the question indirectly, my worst situation, my worst rock bottom was my awakening. And throughout my years of continuous sobriety and clean time, I've heard a lot of the word rock bottoms. And all I'd like to share on that is, you don't have to have hit my rock bottom in order to stop and recover. You can take our experiences, and there's people that have been worse off than me that I've learned from, And I look at them and go, thank God I didn't get as bad as that. And each and every one's bottom is a bottom, but there's always someone worse, just as better.
Mm.
If that makes sense. So yeah, I haven't had any major questions here tonight, but I'm trying to keep up to 30 minutes so I don't bore you too much. As you can probably tell, I've got a spiritual picture behind me. The sunlight blowing through all the bluebells. It's beautiful. And some, keep it simple, one day at a time, live and let live, let go. First things first, and easy does it, which I flip and say it does easy, because it does. And then on that one, I've got easy does it, let go. Keep coming back one day at a time, turning over. Sobriety is a journey, not a destination, but for the grace of God, more will be revealed. How? Honesty, open-minded and willingness. Oh, this is the one I don't particularly like, but I'll share it. This shall pass. And then we're only sick as our secrets. That's a true word. God is never late. That's true. Live and let live. These are slogans that I live by. And if some of them wake you up and smell the coffee, come and have a taste of it, because it is truly fundamentally beautiful. There is a way out. You don't have to suffer in silence anymore. Any law? Freudian slip. If you are drinking if you're drinking, fine, it's legal. Don't make it right. If you're drinking and you're becoming problematic, and if you're using copious amounts of alcohol and drugs, and thinking you're having a wicked time, you may be. But it's not now that's the problem, it's later on. And that later on may become a bigger problem. And then a problem you don't see, and then you come to. So I'm going to check off now. Thank you for those that watched. If you do come in and watch after my live and you watch it after, then please subscribe and thumb me up. And we'll do another question and answers, and maybe get some of you in the room to interject and start with us. Or we'll just keep plodding on doing these. Thank you very much. Subscribe, like. I love you all. If someone hasn't told you today that you're loved, I love you. I truly do.